Hello, my friends. Let's go and talk about how to do the seating risers for this theater drafting. So the first thing I'm going to do is turn off all the stuff I don't really care about right now, just like where the catwalks are, because that's something that we're not going to draft on this version because we're doing a set design for this theater and not a lighting design. It's just me talking to a video.
No, it's okay. At first I was like,
What is happening? Yeah.
It's
it's just me. It's just hi, Mr. Rodriguez. Alright, so we're going to use the Polyline tool to trace some of these shapes, okay? And it was something I couldn't figure out initially, but I wanted to go back now that I have lock on it and show you guys how to do it if you haven't already gotten into that business. So the Polyline tool lets us do lines and arcs. Okay, you would hit number 5 as your keyboard shortcut to pick it up on your cursor. We're going to start by tracing all of the elements in the house. And with these ones, which are double lines, you should just pick a line, either the inside or the outside line, and use that as your guide. I'm going to say let's use the inside line right here as the shape guide. Okay. So each of these steps or spaces wants to become a solid level in the house, and then as you move back through the house, seating would happen on each of these riser levels. So I'm going to jump in first and do the pit. Okay, so I'm starting by tracing along the orchestra pit. If we click on point on arc mode, the very last one, it'll let me create that curved line. Then I get back to a straight line, and I'm going to go back to the corner vertex mode where it's the straight lines, and then I keep going and I keep clicking along. This is another curved line, so I'm going to pick up that point on arc mode, and I'm going to zoom in and make sure that I'm hitting it right on the midpoint of that arc. Back into straight lines, right, and this part kind of goes down underneath that step. Okay, so that's where I'm going to grab from. And then I'm going to be back on the arc, to the end of the arc right here, back into the point mode, back into the arc mode, midpoint arc end, and then back into the point mode right here. And once I do that, it's going to make it a solid piece, okay? Just so that it's easy for you guys to see, I'm going to just kind of start making these different colors. So now I'm going to go through and trace each of the rest of the individual shapes, okay? Okay. The next thing I need to do still is do all of my little steps. I can just do those with rectangle tools because they're rectangles. So let me just bang out some rectangles for all of my steps. And then these little steps are similar but not quite the same. So I'm gonna go grab my selection tool. I'm gonna make these 3 items transparent so that you can see the steps, okay? And then to create a step, these are kind of curved, which if we want to keep that shape we can, and we can just copy and paste it. So let's draw that version. You could also use a rectangle. I'm not gonna be upset with you. So let's say I wanted to make this just a little bit curved edge to match. Then I would just grab all those shapes. Now I have that step. Let's make him like that color. So now I can take this step, duplicate it, right? Or Control D would also work. Pick it up by its little point right, and move it into each of those step locations. And I can do the same thing on the other side, or I can just grab all three of them and mirror them. Let's see if it's in fact symmetrical. Boom. Okay, so now if we take this and we go back to being a solid color for each of these shapes, so I can switch it back to solid, and you, little guy in the middle, this guy's like, I don't want to be solid. So now you can see all of the shapes in the layout that we're going for. This might take you a whole class period because I've been drafting since I was your age. So once you've done all of those shapes, then you'll use your section view and figure out what height each of these should be, okay? And you'll come over here and you'll be like, okay, so this first step relative to 0, 0 being the ground floor, right? The top of the stage deck. So that first piece is going to be minus 2'6", and then you would extrude it below that space. That would be its initial starting Z height would be minus 2'6". Then you'd extrude it below that height, and then you're going to measure each of these intermediate step heights. These are the heights of the main seating risers and not the chairs. So, and not the steps in between. So the steps in between would just be halfway between this height and the next height. Does that make sense? So you'll divide the total height by 2 and then match your steps up to the bottom Z of each of the riser heights. And that's how you will get a complete section of your theater. Once you have finished that step, you can save this file and move on to the symbols drafting project, and that will be starting in on set design sketch for Campo Maldito. So this is part 2 of the theater drafting, a little extra guidance about the Polyline tool. Ask me if you have other questions that I can help you with. Great, thanks guys.